Welcome to the Cookbook, where we invite guests on to share the ingredients of what has helped make them the successes that they are. All of it, the good, the not so good. You're not going to find anything half-baked here. And our kitchen gets messy sometimes. That's when the fun starts. So come on and join us. Okay, so hey, there are times when we all could use a little extra help and support in our lives. Whether there's something you're struggling with or just seeking connection with other people who understand what it's like to be in your situation, Inovia Behavioral Health can help. Inovia is a subscription-based organization that provides unlimited access to a wide variety of educational, experiential, and therapeutic support groups that are led by live expert facilitators. Now, you can get 20% off your membership with the discount code Cookbook20 when you subscribe. Check it out today at inoviabh.com. Inovia, feel better. Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Cookbook. I'm Iris Goldfeder, your host, and welcome to the Mercury retrograde edition. For those of you who believe, you know that Mercury went into retrograde last Friday, and I don't know about you, but it has been a hell of a ride. So everything is all cleared out now, and Katherine and I were just joking. We're like, don't sign any contracts until after May 14th, and all the good things. So I'm super excited about my guest today, Katherine Morales. We've spoken a few different times, and we're really aligned on a lot of things. So I'm going to read her bio and bring her on. So Katherine Morales, APR, Authentic Brand Strategist, and that's trademarked, is an award-winning accredited PR marketing consultant and recognized trailblazer in the communications industry. As founder of Inflection Point Communications, she helps entrepreneurs and franchise companies alike to harness the power of their authentic voice and value to attract more aligned relationships, build their brand reputation, and in turn, grow greater revenue and marketing positioning for their business. She's worked with major corporations, including Chick-fil-A, Hewlett-Packard, and Bayer Crop Science, and now she helps companies and owners alike to build the business they desire, expanding with intentional purpose, reaching their inflection point, and making a greater impact. Katherine and her team of seasoned PR, brand, and authentic marketing professionals are based throughout the U.S., primarily on the East Coast. Go East Coast. Katherine is a 15-year industry advocate and volunteer, having served on the International Universal Accreditation Board, UAB, as well as the Georgia State Board of the Public Relations Society of America, PRSA. I can't talk today. In 2019, Katherine was an inaugural recipient of the PRSA Georgia Chapter's 40 Under 40 Award. Okay, I got through it. So without further ado, let's say hey to Katherine.
Hey, Iris, we're going to blame it on Mercury. Don't worry.
I'm telling you. Well, I just came from, I love all my clients, right? But one of my favorite right now is they're called Dogwood Kennel. And I take, we take our dogs there on Fridays. And we were doing a video shoot for them. So we had drones and, everything involved. And so I'm like all like high energy and happy stuff. But I can't talk for whatever reason. So
you're busy communicating with the pups.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. So okay, holy crap, you've done like a lot. And no, but it's awesome. I love,
Thank you.
and I have people go, wow, that's a lot, but that's you, it's all you. And I know that you're super proud of it all. So why don't we talk about what you do and who you are?
Sure. Well, I am an authentic brand strategist. I, believe that we're all born with a special light inside of us, a spark, if you will. I think we ignite that when we begin our businesses. And, I think that I follow my own process. So authentic brand strategist was a title born out of really asking myself, why me and only me? Like, what am I born here to do? So I know my bio pretty much explains a lot of it, but I've been in business almost 8 years. My company's Inflection Point Communications. And yeah, I believe that every entrepreneur deserves to make an impact with their business. Every person deserves to leave an infinite mark, beyond the finite goals. Like what seed are you planting for tomorrow's growth? So that's what I'm all about.
That's awesome. And, and there's a saying, right? Like the seeds that we plant today are the tree for, the future generations. And I
Yeah.
love that philosophy. So, so tell us a little bit about, God, there's like so many things I want to know. Okay. So, uh, as the founder, so when you started, the business, um, what what was your journey to begin? Everybody laughs at that.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a journey to get there. You didn't just go, oh, okay, I'm going to do this. So what um, was the path that led you to starting it?
Yeah. Well, I've often said that, you have to be happy where you're working. So I had, all the credentials, the perfect resume, if you will. I was on a trajectory, but as I looked up, which, obviously I was going to do that. What's the next level? I was managing a team in an agency. But as I looked up, I didn't want to be there. So, the next thing you do when you look up and you don't want to necessarily be in that role, that next position, you have to look out. So I looked out. I applied for some jobs, that I was qualified to work for, but I wasn't excited about it. It didn't bring me any joy. I just wasn't lit up. And there was no reason I shouldn't be lit up about it because, this is what I know how to do. This is what I have a degree in. And I loved my work, but I had to look within. So, that was the only last place to look. What am I feeling called to? What's my next? And, what's interesting is I'd had an opportunity some years prior to take an entrepreneurial path. My former boss, who's now retired, had asked me to start a branch of his business in Georgia, which is where I'm based. And I turned down the invitation. My brother-in-law thought I was crazy. And lo and behold, as I look within, I hear, you have to build it. I didn't know what the hell I was building, but I said, okay, let's get a name. Let's get a name first. And I knew it was my inflection point. It was my time to rise to the challenge of what I'm meant to do here. So each step of the way, I've gone with the gut. I'm sacral authority. There you go. So where else would you go? And yeah, I've built it piece by piece. I haven't always been the authentic brand strategist. I started as a PR counselor and helping startup businesses, and it's always been entrepreneurs from the beginning, but I started there and I quickly realized that a lot of businesses didn't know what they needed. And I thought I was actually going to go back to grad school. So I started my business with intentions of it supporting me going back to school to be a professor. And about 6 months into business, one, I realized I could teach and basically incorporate education into the work I do. But two, I also got pregnant with my daughter. So those two things coming into relationship with one another really set the path for me. And I've never looked back. So.
Wow, that's awesome. And I love the looking inward. I've had so many conversations about that in the last week, that as soon as people start looking inward is when they really see what they're supposed to do, because you're right. We look 100%. Up, we look out, right? We look up, we look out. But as soon as we look in, it's like, okay.
Yeah.
There it is, right?
That's you've been there all along. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I love the, how you were supposed to do this before, and the time just, in your, world just wasn't right to do it. And then you're like, oh, had I known. But, yeah. And I think that happens a lot, because I've had my company for like 10 years now. And it's only the last year that it's really kind of come into, what I'm supposed to be doing, who I'm supposed to be doing it for. I don't just work with anybody. I'm really picky. And people are like, people are like, well, you need to make money. I'm like, yeah, but I need to make money with the right people.
Right. Maybe happy working with them too. Yeah.
Exactly, right. And it's got to be mutual. Like I said, this dog kennel. Oh my God, I get so much joy. First off, I bring my dogs to them every Friday, but anytime I walk in there, it's like our energies are so aligned that it's just like today. It was supposed to rain this week, and all of a sudden today it's a 70-degree day. The sky is like amazingly perfect, just like everything aligned for this shoot to happen. So
Yeah.
it was just amazing. But so so we know what made you become an entrepreneur. I mean, that
Yeah.
obviously you had that, light inside of you. And I mean, I think that, for a lot of people, it's like some of it was out of necessity. Like for me, it was out of necessity. I lost my
Yeah.
job, and it was like, I don't want to collect unemployment. So, that's
Yeah.
not who I am.
Yeah.
If I would have been home more than like 2 weeks, I'd be bald because I'd be pulling my hair out. I wouldn't know what to do.
Yeah.
And other people are just literally like, what the hell? I'm just going to try this, and I mean, sometimes they're successful and sometimes, they're like, oof, maybe I shouldn't have done that. So I love
Right.
when, it's done intentionally and there's, purpose behind it. I had a guest on who was the former COO of a major corporation who he's my psychic. He decided that he was doing his thing, but his calling was to be a psychic. And
Yeah.
he left an international,
Wow.
corporation.
Yeah.
But he's amazing. He hasn't been wrong about anything. This guy is like,
Wow.
Amazing. And it was just so funny because, I'm sitting there talking to him and we do sessions maybe a couple of times a month.
Yeah.
I said, "Ooh, Nate, you should be on my podcast." And he went, "I'm a psychic." I said, "You're an entrepreneur."
I'm surprised you didn't say, I knew you were going to ask me that.
Okay, but I'm funny. So he said, "Yeah." He said, "I am." I said, "Yeah." I said, and like all of my guests are so different. They come from so many different backgrounds, and some people ask to be on, right? And sometimes I'll be talking to somebody and be like, "Oh my God, this is like perfect."
Yeah.
And it was so funny, but it was like, you're right. I mean, I am an entrepreneur now, and he does quite well for himself because he is good.
Yeah. Awesome.
So for people that are out there listening, what advice would you have for somebody who's thinking about becoming an entrepreneur?
Well, I think it's something you gotta be all in on, I don't think that, I mean, it might be something that, yeah, let's give this a try, and then you realize how in it you are. But I think that entrepreneurship has to be an expression of yourself, right? It's yes, there's these skills I have, but how am I doing this different than the myriad of all the other people that do whatever you do, right? And we can talk about how you're different, and that's a differentiator. But I think that, again, we're talking about the inner world. Like, what is your why? What brings you to it? So I think if you begin your business, it's tough to say like you're going to start there. I don't think a lot of entrepreneurs start with a full clarity of why. And even if they do, it deepens and it evolves.
Mm-hmm.
But I think being from the beginning, recognizing, that you are the differentiating factor, recognizing, that it's equally important to build the outside as it is to, focus on how you're going to bring yourself to this, how you're going to show up fully, because that's what it takes.
Yeah, 100%.
I think some people like realize that as an afterthought. Like they want to, they're waiting for something to happen, or they're hesitating, or they're hiding, like all these, symptoms that I see in entrepreneurs, 5 years in business, 10 years in business. And it doesn't mean they don't have a successful business, but there's going to be a day where that rubber meets the road and you realize that you can't hide in your business, that you got to be the face of it. You're an entrepreneur. You're the face of it. You are the business. So even if you have the team. So I think beginning with that foot and with that in mind and having curiosity inwardly as much as outwardly is crucial.
And it's so funny. And this is why I say we're so aligned. And I mean, I know this whenever we talk, right? But
we both have the fire. So,
well, we both have the fire. So, but, it was, for me, I always tell my clients that are entrepreneurs, you are the product, right?
Yeah.
However, I wasn't doing that for me. Mm-hmm. And so I'm working with Kim Russo, and she's like, your website needs to be you. And I went, no, it doesn't. It just, and she said, physician, heal thyself. She's like,
yeah,
no, people want to work with you. They want to see you. And I didn't realize that, I'm really comfortable with other people being out front, but I just really wasn't comfortable with that. So I went down to Charleston because we were working on a couple of projects together. And she said, I have this great photographer. Let's do a photo shoot. And I went, yeah, we don't have to do that, And she's like, no. We need pictures for your website.
Are you hiding?
Like, a little bit. And like people who know me are like, but you're so, extroverted and, like, why would you? But it's different when it's you. And so the website got up. We did the rebranding last week. And for the first 2 weeks that it was up, I would go to the homepage and be like, like, that's like a little scary. Although I did get I think
there I am.
Yeah, it's like, okay. But I did get 3 jobs off of that site before it was even, before, because people saw me and they wanted to work with me. And I looked at my life after 2 weeks of looking at it, I looked at it for the first time and I didn't have that tightness. I didn't have that fear factor. I didn't have that like little imposter syndrome that sticks in every once in a while. I looked at it and I went, holy shit, that's me.
Yes.
Look at what I've accomplished. I am proud of that. And then I blasted it out to everybody. Look at my new website. My doctor, I had a doctor's appointment and she's looking at it going, oh my God, this is,
amazing.
So it was so
that's how it goes.
When you turn it, when you turn the camera on you, right? Which literally was what I did. We're in the middle of the photo shoot and I'm always on the other end of that.
Yeah.
Going, smile, act like this, turn like this. And they're telling me that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait a minute, I can't do this. Is like too, but it was the Shine Studio in Charleston, and Anna Laura is so comforting. Like she makes you just feel really comfortable, to work with. So the photo shoot was like a lot of fun, but it was like looking at the pictures afterwards was like, oh my God. But so I think
I love how you, sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I just had to say, I love, what you just described is entirely normal. I call it the authentic reward cycle. There's a complete discomfort once you do it, right? Oh my God, that's me. And then as you kind of move through it and people react to it or you're reacting to it and you're in a relationship with it, there comes this turning point where you light up, right? Literally, even as you tell the story, and then I was sending it out to everybody, all the energy that comes with it just shifts completely. Yeah. So I just love, I love that.
It was just so funny because, and then I found myself looking through everything and going through all the pictures and being like, oh yeah, I remember when we did that. That was so much fun. And there's one picture on I forgot what page it is. I think it's on the content page that we took. And I said, we need to get the 3 of us. And so it was in the shoot was done in a hotel in Charleston and everything was blue. The carpet was blue. So everything was branded. It was just so crazy the way, well, no, she planned it that way. But, to me, it was this is crazy.
It's everything like a Hotel Indigo or something.
Right. Yeah. She was like, well, duh, I planned that. But I said, we need to get a picture of the 3 of us in the mirror. So she took a picture of us, in the mirror. And that's my favorite picture. But I think you're right. It's that comfort level because when you, when you're, I think when you're in yourself, and you're comfortable and you're whatever. But when you see yourself,
It's a whole new
that's
ballgame.
scary shit. That is scary.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was really like, okay.
Yeah.
And then you're right. When you finally are like, wait a minute, that's me, and it was just, this totally eye-opening thing. And now I love it. Like I just like show it to everybody. And we're going to be making a couple of changes to it because one of the biggest things that we're working on is ADA compliance. Because people are getting sued for not being compliant. If their website is not compliant, they're getting sued. And there's like a level of compliance. Yeah, there's like a level of compliance that I didn't know about, but my compliance guru was like, yeah, we kind of need to make a couple of changes. And all of my clients now, everything is compliant. We don't do anything unless it's compliant because, so
because nobody wants to be sued. Yeah.
You're right. Somebody's listening about, oh shit, my website. But it's really, and it just started happening. Like the last, I think, month or two, people are getting sued left and right because people are like, if this is not going to be accessible to all disabilities, then, it's not good. So,
interesting.
So that was,
it makes a lot of sense. We'll blame it on Mercury too. Let's just go ahead and do that.
I mean, come on, man.
Now, you just said the last couple of days, I would have said, oh, go figure. Yeah.
I mean, like the beginning of this week was insane. I was like, what is, like, I know that, and I kept going, F you, Mercury, because I was just like, enough. Like, because it was like the first Monday and Tuesday sucked worse than days that I've had in the last probably like year. It was just like, what in gut? Like, come on, give me a break. And then I did energy clearing, and like I said yesterday, it was, and thank God I did that because I was like about to have a nervous breakdown, I think. So, but it's when you're self-aware, right, as we are, and you're intuitive, and you have all the things going right. We're mostly, I think, bubbly people. I think we're mostly, positive. And then all of a sudden this thing hits and you're like, oh man, I don't like this feeling. I haven't felt like this in a really long time. Go away.
Yeah.
Get away from me. And it was like and my wife was even like, I haven't seen you like this in a while. I was like, taking salt baths. Like, what can I do to,
burning sage?
Yeah. So, people listening are like, oh my God. Well, and that's what I love about this, right? Because, I have an audience of, some of them are intuitive. Some of them don't believe in it at all. Some of them have heard me talk about it and they're like, man, I kind of heard you talk about that, and I looked into it, and I might be interested, in learning more. So I thought that was kind of cool, and that's what I love about this. It's go ahead.
Yeah, well, I just love. I mean, even within this conversation, I knew it before, but like, you have so many relationships with diverse audiences. So I love that about you, and I think for the people that don't get it or don't subscribe to following Mercury in retrograde and all that, or burning sage in the home, I think, as long as you're not judging, as long as you're not judging, like, at least be curious. I think, curiosity is one of the most, underutilized things. It's just plentiful in our younger years. And I feel like we, try to get back in relationship with it as adults, but instead of getting frustrated, I say get curious.
And I wish that most of the people in this country felt like that, because we'd be in a much better
right. Right.
That would solve all of our problems.
The cure is curiosity.
Yeah, don't be afraid of stuff. Learn about it, right? I mean, the stuff that you don't understand, don't be afraid of. Ask questions. Learn, because maybe there's a way that everybody can come together. But I'm not going to.
And there's enough room for you don't have to accept it and make it your own, but there's enough room for, other ways besides your own.
Right.
So, yeah.
100%.
But we'll get off our pedestal.
I know, we're going to be like,
let's get up on the soapbox, Iris.
We're going to do a wine and Zoom, Catherine, and then we'll.
Yes.
But
spin-off podcast. There we go.
Yeah. So my mindfulness coach and I do a wine and Zoom once a month, and we hadn't done one in a few months, and we did it last Friday actually, and it was just so funny because I was like, man, I need it. I never said I needed wine before, but I was like, I really needed this because it was like wine and wine, right? It was like the double wine.
Yes.
So,
sometimes.
I know, right? So do you miss corporate at all, or?
The natural reaction is always to laugh, which I feel some level of guilt for, but it's dissipating.
You should feel guilty.
No, I don't. Not anymore, at least. No, but I think that you go through, like, when I left my position, it wasn't until I put in my notice that they told me I was billing the most hours in the entire firm. And, there's a moment where you're like, oh, you're going to miss that, right? And then there's like I'm a month in business and I'm like, oh shit, I brought myself with me.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I think, I don't blame anything on corporate, but I think that people become entrepreneurs because they're, seeking freedom. It's like the common word. Now that freedom is defined differently, but in the, I guess, like most basic form, it's like the freedom to work the hours you want to work and, build the business that you desire. But I think that, we tend to separate ourselves from like how much we can control. So my tagline is do it on purpose. So obviously I care a great deal about being purposeful. So I don't poo-poo on corporate, but I tend to align myself with, I've been, drawn to B corporations that believe in, people, planet, animals, all of that are just as important as profit. Mm-hmm. I don't understand why every corporation isn't a B Corp. And if you need a guy, Nathan Stuck is your guy. I'm connected with him on LinkedIn. So yeah, he's a wonderful person who's a champion for B corporations. But yeah, I tend to buy from and be in good company with businesses that, are caring about the environment and, the impact that they're making. Yeah, I wouldn't really be aligned with what I'm doing if I thought otherwise or shopped or, So I would just say, no, I don't think I would go back to corporate. I really love what I do. So don't miss it. But I sure as hell know that if I ever did or had to, I wouldn't do it with anyone but probably a B Corp who's just doing good damn business, treating their people right, people-centric, purpose-driven, all of that.
Yep. Yeah, I love that. Yeah. And when when I talk to entrepreneurs, we kind of laugh and we're like, we're unemployable. Like, I know for a fact. Yeah. I remember when I started this, again last year, when it was like, okay, I'm going to do all the things. I was like, this has to work because I can never work for anybody again. I'm old. So, I say I'm old. I'm going to be 63 at at the end of the month. So there is ageism.
Great.
But mom's jeans, my wife, and rock and roll. It's, and
I need some of that
Kool-Aid. Yeah. But I really, even when I was working for people, they would be like, yeah, you need to do it this way. And it would be like, no, that's not going to work.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, that's why I became unemployed, was because I was basically unemployable.
Right.
And I think that, but really, right? Because when I look at all of the jobs that I've ever had, there were two that I really, really loved. And the rest, I should have started entrepreneurship back then. The only thing was I didn't have the acumen, I guess, or because people told me, oh, you should go into sales, and I was like, I'm not going into sales. That's like all mission based, and hell no, I'm not going to do that. So I know my brain just wasn't there. And when I did become an entrepreneur, because this is my second business, I had ICG Development and Consulting, LLC, which this is like an umbrella. That's an umbrella of this. And I started that like 15 years ago because the company that I was working with didn't do things the way that I would. And we parted ways. And when we parted ways, their clients were like, you're the reason that we are working with them. So now what? And I'm like, I have a non-compete for 8 months. I can't do anything. I said, I can guide you, but I can't take any money from you or whatever. And after 8 months, I had it was ridiculous how many clients I had.
Nice.
But then that goes away after a while, right? Because they grow, they close, they move, whatever, things change. So then I went back to working for people. And when I went back to working for people, I was literally like, I don't want to do this. So it was like, So when I got fired from, the last company on my birthday, by the way, but it was okay because I knew I kind of set the stage. I really did. The woman who was my boss wanted me to wear dresses and wear makeup and do all of that crap. And it was like,
I feel like that's not legal.
Well, it's not legal, but in Indiana, it's an at will or at whatever the hell it is. So so they could say whatever they want. But I remember, and the woman who hired me, loved me because of who I was. She was like, I love your attitude. I love, you dress professionally. You always show up nice. I don't care what you wear. So, but my new boss was, and then she wanted to come on sales calls with me. And, she would sit with these, clients of mine and like sit sideways when a guy was talking and, and I was like, oh, fuck no. No.
Yeah.
No. And I told her, I was like, I am never going to be that person. And then like 2 days later, I got put on a plan.
Wow.
So I was like, all right, whatever. So I knew that it was coming. But then I called my clients and let them know that I wasn't there anymore. And one of my clients was like, they're stupid because they've been trying to sell me for like the last 4 years. And you sold me a, $45,000 or whatever it was, contract. And then he said, why don't we start a business together? And I went, let's talk. So we talked and weighed the pros and cons and we did. And he was my partner for 5 years, but in name only because I started the LLC. So I had, control of everything, which was a good thing. That was like an accident, right? That was total, but I went, oh, thank you for that universe. And then, so here we are. And
what a journey.
Yeah. Oh, we'll talk more. That's not it. That's the easy part. So, people listening to this are also seasoned entrepreneurs. Mm-hmm. So in business, we always have these like obstacles, right? So what are some obstacles that you've overcome?
100% mental game. I think, like I was saying, I was billing the most hours and then I started my business and I'm like, why am I so stressed? And, I realized brought myself with me. But
so whether when you say that, I kind of know what you mean by that. Well, I know what you mean by that, but like explain that because there may be some people listening going, what does that mean?
Well, okay. So I think we live in a pretty what I call it is like surface society where we want to just present the best, right? So that's how, when you work in corporate America, that's how you typically show up. COVID changed some of that, but for the most part, you're showing up at the surface. You're not bringing, all the issues at home or all the, baggage that maybe even from your childhood or whatever you're carrying with you, right? They call it bag of rocks. But when you start your business, come hell or high water, it's going to come to the surface. Even if you want to keep it underground, it's coming up. And I think, honestly, that's the most beautiful part of the journey. Absolutely beautiful. And that's why I feel like I'm, very unemployable and I can't do anything else, because it is, use that to your advantage, right? I describe authenticity as the good and growing, but
Ooh, I like that.
We can't, thank you. We can't just acknowledge the good. This is the journey I've been on. Well, to finish that part about, billing the most hours, a question, whether you're a year in business or 25 years in business, if you have not asked yourself, what kind of boss do I want to be to myself? You got to ask that question. That changed the trajectory of things for me. But I think that, recognizing that these growing pieces, these things that sometimes, you may feel broken, you may feel ashamed of, those are the very things that someone probably is going to love about you. And depending on the type of business, it might be like you're walking the journey or the path that your clients have. And it's every reason why they'll come to work with you. So some of what I do is I help people, call it story mining, like to really rediscover themselves. And these experiences they've had are fully connected to what they do. But to be able to tell that story in a meaningful way, I have a founder's story, like how I came to be the entrepreneur I am. And it begins as a 10-year-old in church. So that was once a trauma reframed to really awaken me to why I do what I do.
Wow. Okay, we're going to have to delve into that another time. You're going to be back on. We're going to talk about that. No, because I think a lot of who we are now is because of our child. There's one pivotal moment in our childhood, and it doesn't have to be trauma, because I had somebody say not everybody had a traumatic, childhood, right?
You're in denial.
And I'm
not saying the full trauma, but I'm convinced you cannot escape childhood without experiencing some form of trauma.
Something, right? Something that made you,
even small. Yeah.
And I had bad trauma. I had like a lot of bad trauma, and I carried it with me. And I didn't realize it. And then like a year and a half ago, I was speaking with somebody, and we were not a therapist. We were actually just working on some like business stuff. And he said, let me ask you a question. And he's like a really like rough around the edges. He curses more than I will ever curse in my life. And people listening to that, my friend Michelle is going, no fucking way. I don't have a glass of wine. So my friend Michelle listens to this, and I talk about her all the time because A, I love her dearly, but B, she never curses. I broke her. I'm just going to say I broke her. And she has like, she was joking, maybe joking, and saying, whenever I listen to your podcast, every time I play a drinking game with myself, every time you say the word,
my God,
I have a sip of wine. So, and I said, man, you must have been really trash last week, because, when Kimberly Spencer and I were on, I know, so I've had a few people on. So, but anyway, so, he said to me, all right, let's cut the shit. And I went, what?
Yeah.
And he said, what, something happened because I was in a toxic, and I'm, going to be honest, I was in a toxic partnership, not personal, business partnership for 3 years. And didn't realize it was toxic, because you don't realize it when you're in it. Right. And then he said, what the fuck happened to you that you let yourself do that? And I went, I don't know. He goes, let's go back to your childhood. And I had a pretty rough childhood. And there was one particular thing that happened. And he said, and how did you react to that? And I said, I ran away. He goes, and then what was the second thing? And I was abandoned. So my two MOs were, I would run away when things got really, really rough, and I had abandonment issues. So, and I looked and I went, you son of a bitch. Because then every decision that I made in my entire life made sense. Everything from my teen years to my
business
30s, right? And yes. And
that's what I'm saying. It comes to the surface. Yeah.
100%. And so last year, when I started this, it came from a couple of things. I have a lifelong COVID thing, and I didn't know that I almost died, and then I was waiting for a year to die. And when they said you're okay, you're going to live, I was like, "Ooh, okay, let's do the thing."
Yeah.
So I started the podcast. I decided I'm going to work with who I want, when I want, where I want, how I want.
Hell yeah.
I joined the Dames. And that was a whole fate thing. And we'll talk about that. My audience knows it, but that was like a whole, like manifestation. It was like I went to the round table. I'm like, I have to join this group. I'm not at that mark yet. The next morning, I saw 2 deer. I got a phone call saying, hey, I'm now the marketing director of this company, and we want you to do all our marketing. And I went, holy shit. So I emailed Megan, and I was like, oh my God, I'm joining. And everything changed. Everything changed. And you're right. You bring you with you, the good and the bad, right?
And it's not even good and bad. It's the good and growing.
The good and growing. Yes. See, thank you.
Yeah.
And I love that, because we are always growing, and we are always works in progress. Always.
As long as you're breathing.
Yes. Yeah. I don't think it's ever done. And I've had people go, I think I learned, and I'm like, no, you're going to wake up tomorrow and you're going to get another lesson, whether you like it or not.
That's the blessing of life. Like, I know, bring it on.
Learning. Yeah. That's for me. I'm like, I have my, my vision board here, and I'm always learning. I'm always, growing, and so, and I have that right there, because, it's, I think, one of the most important things. So when it comes to brand and marketing, what does the word harmony mean to you?
So I ask entrepreneurs the question, what's your brand in a word? And obviously I don't ask a question I'm not willing to answer. So my brand in a word is harmony. And when I talk about it, I really believe I'm in the business of helping to align people's inner and outer worlds. So I think the trouble is with like marketing and branding, most people want to build it from, the surface out. And most people are only shopping for like that outer world. How do I reach more people? Obviously, that's the given when you're working with someone. I'm going to help you on the outside. But I think it's what I uniquely do is help bring that harmony. I begin with that curiosity. And it's a discovery. It's not a me telling you this is what you should be doing, because I don't believe in any of that crap. It's intuitive process. It's a process I've developed to discover the why you and only you, the true essence of you, and what, again, that spark that lit up when you started this, like, how are we sharing that light with the outer world? And are they seeing that unique light?
Man, I just had deja vu. That was like the weirdest thing. I literally just had deja vu. And it's so funny.
I don't know, that's a good thing.
No, I think it is, because my one word is fire. Yeah. And I just love how we both have the fire, but everything that is associated with, Gas Stove Creative, the Cookbook podcast, like all of it, what lights your fire, which is, I'm going to ask you at the end. But shit. But it all goes back to, for me, I want my client to know what fires them up, what lights them up, what is going to make you get out of bed in the morning and be like, hell yes, I want to do my job. Yes, I love, and it's a marketing piece, because when you have that fire, then the message that you need to get out. So it makes marketing, I think, that much easier. We do the digital stuff, we do the traditional stuff, but I also really want to get their story as well in a different way than you do.
Yeah.
Like for the kennel, I walked in and we sat down and we started talking. They were like, well, this is, a kennel. And I said, no, this is a community. And she just looked at me and was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's what it is. It's a community
Yeah.
that people can take their animals to, and they're going to be safe. They freaking have like ion things on their, I don't know, for the air. Like everything is like
Yeah.
fresh.
Yeah.
So, it's literally a safe place.
Yeah.
But as soon as I walked in, that was what I felt, and I go by my intuition now, right? And I was just like, community. And she was like, oh my God, we love you. And, the rest is history. But
beautiful.
And I don't think I would have been able to answer that before. Like, what's your company, just describe your business in one word. Yeah. I don't think I would have been able to do that. But the way that everything came together with, even the name of the podcast.
Yeah.
I said to Kofi, I'm like, okay, I'm ready to do the podcast. And he said, okay. I said, but we should do it together. And he said, no. And I said, yeah. Because I didn't want to do it alone. I said, yeah. We could do like this, I don't know, like we could just do something together. And he said, no, I'm going to produce it. You're going to host it. And then after we argued and he won, I said, okay, fine. What are we going to call it? And so we started thinking it has to do with cooking, and then gas stoves and blah, 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 blah. And then we were like, ooh, the cookbook, recipes for success in business and market. And it just like, and so everything just kind of is aligned, right? And and that's what I love.
It unfolded naturally. Yeah.
Yes. And that's what harmony means to me, is that everything is aligned and you're feeling harmonious. And like, we were joking before, but it really is a very Zen, I think, comfortable feeling, because a lot of people don't feel comfortable in their business, and you can see it. You can see it.
Yeah. Well, and I think, not that I usually say like marketing should feel like Zen to you, but I mean that comfort and that kind of natural. I call it's like flow, right? Like marketing flow.
Yeah.
Like when you can align with that authenticity, when you can, clearly see, oh, there are not just ideal clients, but right someone's that I'm meant to serve, then, that creates a certain freedom, right? Like you're not trying to walk into any room and attract every single person. Right. You're trying to walk into the right room and attract the right 4 or 5 people, right? Like the right someone's in that room. But yeah, I think that there's, it creates a greater ease and comfort when you show up. Because 1, you're showing up fully as you. Mm-hmm. 2, you hopefully, I believe in, when I talk about authentic marketing, it's about, creating your path versus just like taking a path, like, and so doing what feels more natural to you. Like if you're great at, problem solving on the fly, like, doing talks and real-time interactions are probably, something you should do. So I have a process where I help people delve into like what they naturally love doing, like their strong suits, and aligning their marketing actions based on that.
Yeah. See, I love that. But I think because when people, when you show up as your authentic self and you're really your authentic self, everything falls into place.
1,000%.
And I think I told you this, like I had a coach tell me, I don't know, like 6 years ago, be less you. And
hell no.
I was too intense. I'm in Indiana. I'm from New York, and then I lived in Chicago. And, people here are introverts. And I'm like, oh, shit. Okay, well, I don't know what that means, but maybe I need to pull back a little. And I did.
Oh, my God.
And I got clients. Well, because I didn't have that belief in myself.
Yeah.
And then after about, I think it was like 8 months, the clients that I got from being less me, when they saw the real me, were like, oh, shit, this isn't who we hired. And I was like, yeah, it is. But they didn't know that. And I was like, So I
Right.
fired the coach.
Yeah. Good
And
for you.
but then I had to figure out who was the authentic me, right?
Yeah.
And that took a little while because, I mean, I knew who I was, but I wasn't comfortable with who I was. And
Mm.
so I had to do a lot of inner work,
Yeah.
looking inward, and um, finally getting to a point that was like, what the fuck is wrong with him? I'm awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
And really, really knowing that, not just thinking it, not just, that surface, like, oh yeah, I'm awesome, but like really
Yeah.
knowing, no, I am freaking awesome. I
Yeah.
am awesome. And I love me. I look at myself in the mirror every morning now and I'm like, let's get this day. Even when the day kicked my ass Monday, and I woke Monday, kicked my ass. Tuesday, I woke up and I was like, all right, let's do this. We've got this, and it's
Yeah.
just like, I'm my own cheerleader. And I have plenty of cheerleaders, but when you're your own cheerleader, it's like a whole another
Yeah.
level. And
Well,
it's just,
and it doesn't matter how many other cheerleaders you have because you'll
yeah,
never, win the game. No, the cheerleaders playing the game. So yeah, anyhow, but you'll never really, win your own inner game.
yeah,
Like until you're your own cheerleader.
yeah,
It's yeah, good for you.
yeah. And it, and it took a lot of looking at, okay, why did he tell me to be less me? And then, when I lost those clients, I was like, what did they see that wasn't who I was being? And then I was like, who I was being. There's your answer. I wasn't me.
Yeah.
And then it was like, okay, who are you? So yeah, you're a badass. Yeah, you curse a lot. Yeah, whatever. Are you good at what you do? Yes. Do you help people? And not just, do you help people, but do you, when you bring somebody on, are you 100% sure that you will have success and they will have success?
Yeah.
Because if there's not going to be a dual success, don't take it on. Because if it's just going to be, at that point, yes, I want to help people be successful, but I also, just because they're successful doesn't mean that the way that I did it was successful. I don't know if that makes sense. But I've worked with people that I've helped, and I was kind of like, yeah, I just didn't like the way it went.
Yeah.
So they got something out of it, but I don't think that they got everything out of it. So now, unless I know that it's going to be, that full, circle success, I don't take them on.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. We talked about like, planting the seeds, for tomorrow, but I also, every new client I come to work with, I send them like a welcome letter on seed paper because I believe it's like we're planting that seed together, but it's about us growing. What are we going to grow together?
I may steal that from you. I'm publicly. I'm probably going to steal that from you with your permission. That is like
the sincerest form of flattery is imitation, right? No, it's fine. I literally had a client get the same background as mine, so don't worry. No, but the term I use for it is interconnection. Like this is literally how I believe all business should work. That it's about this mutual benefit and growth. That if think about corporate. Let's go back to corporate. Think about if businesses realize that they don't actually have a business unless they have the team members, the workers, right? And, the customers or clients, like it's equally dependent. So why would you treat your employees like crap or shit? We're cursing here. I do too. So don't worry. Why would you treat them like that?
Michelle, start drinking.
I feel at home. But why would you do that and then give all your best to the clients? What attributes to burnout? That formula right there.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yep.
So it happens all the time. I think it should be different.
start saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but it does. So, and I know, we know the answer to this already because I feel like you've answered it, but what is your differentiator? I mean, why would somebody want to work with you for their story as opposed to somebody else?
Well, yeah, I think it's the harmony, it's the in and out, but I guess something I haven't said is I truly believe, like, the do it on purpose tagline that I have. I truly
Which
believe
is
in
amazing,
impact.
by the way. I love it.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
no, I love all of your stuff.
Thank you. So
Yeah.
sweet.
I mean,
Yeah, but I think, so impact is a key word. Like, I have come, the longer I'm in business, we deepen our relationship, right? Like, you're just talking about me as well. And yes, I work with entrepreneurs and franchises, but like, I work with, especially on the entrepreneurial front, I work with businesses that it's not just about the revenue at all. It's about making an impact, like putting a stake in the ground. Like, I want to change something in my industry. I want to change something about the way people do business, the way people shop, what have you. But it's not just a product. It's not just a service. It's a change agent for something. And so my differentiator is that I believe that impact stands for I'm positioned to act. So I help people with that positioning. And I believe in the power of maximizing you and only you.
wow.
I think that's your greatest connector to the people you're meant to serve.
Yeah. You and I need to do some collaboration on something.
We've been talking about this, Iris. Like,
I know, we need to, because we have to do something.
Are you feeling the fire? Like, it's cooking
the
between
more
us. I love it.
To you, the more I'm just like going, like we've spoken a couple of times, and it was funny because, like, I always look at, who my guest is, the next day, and I always get excited about people, but I, reflect on our conversations, and every conversation we've had has always been real, and all that. Yeah. And I was like, fuck yes, this is going to be awesome. Like, I can't wait. And especially just having the crap week, having you here is just like, this is just like so, refreshing. And I really do. I really feel like there's something somewhere that, and we'll talk about that, off of here. But
yeah. I'm excited about it.
Man, I just like love you so much. So, I mean, I
love you, Iris. The feeling's mutual. I said me too. I was like, no. I mean, I do love me, but I love you too.
I love you. So, it's always so good when, and I think, my audience, and it's like forever changing. I think that, I'm getting more people in, than I had before, and it's a more diverse audience, because it used to be about entrepreneurship, and really only entrepreneurship. But because it's about the journey, it's changed because people's journeys are so different, and I think that that's my differentiator for this podcast, is that, it's not the same old, and you never know what the hell you're going to get. Like, you never know what you're going to hear, how many curses you're going to hear. I'm kidding about that, but just really, who, and I really believe that the people that are listening now are supposed to be listening, right? Yes. So the people that are listening to this episode are supposed to get some kind of a message from it. Like, I don't believe in accidents. I don't believe in accidents. So
no, not at all.
Somebody today got something from this.
Just got goosebumps. So, I don't know if this happens to you, but I get goosebumps in my head. Like,
I get them everywhere. I get them like right in my arms.
But depending on where I get them, it's like says something to me. So I got them in my head, and that's just a very real, deeper connection to what you're saying. So yeah.
Interesting. So
that's a weird me thing.
No, it's you say that, but when I was doing my energy this week, it was weird, because I was getting energy in like different parts of my body, and I never experienced that before, because I'm getting more. Here we go. I'm getting I'm getting more and more open, right? So it's just like,
Yeah.
she'll open something up. I don't know what the hell she did, but whatever it was, because now my head is like starting to tingle a little. It's been like this thing. So
Yeah.
anyway,
Oh my God, I'm so excited for you.
yeah, and I'm like this. I'm excited about you and me. I'm just like so
Yeah.
excited. So thank you so much for taking the time today, because I know we're all busy, right? And I know that
Yeah.
this is like an hour, and
It's time well spent.
I
Very well
mean,
spent.
oh, absolutely. And before I ask you, my final question, do you have any parting thoughts, or words of wisdom, or something?
Mm, well, I guess if I would add a tip, one thing, again, I've been learning on my journey. Obviously, I bring my credentials and my expertise of working with these major brands, but in the entrepreneurial journey, there's a whole new ball game. And so I've been on that path, and the longer I'm in it, I'm deepening my understanding. And so one thing, I want to say since COVID, that I realized, which is kind of like a no shit Sherlock moment, but here we go. I said, oh, there are three that drive business: reputation, relationships, and revenue. And I realized that most of the time, at least the people I was attracting at that point, were so focused on revenue, and they had absolutely no attention to the reputation, and they had very few relationships. And obviously, it's those other two that feed revenue.
Mm-hmm.
And so, this is something, I have an article about it, like the 3 R's that drive business, on my site. But I also would say I keep deepening my relationship with this. It's something that I ask, talk about impact and positioning, like that feeds into it, right? Like how are you known? Who do you know? What, all of that, because that's what we can leverage, or that's what we need to focus on. But even internally with my business, I organize every meeting this way. How am I keeping mindful of these 3 R's that are driving my business? So I think take that and run with it if it helps you in your business.
I love that, and you're right. I mean, that one R is driven by the other two, because if you don't have the other two, you're not going to have a lot of the other one. I don't think, anyway.
Yeah,
so
and I always say you got to choose the foot you're going to lead with too. So you might want to grow both equally, but depending on where you are, like if you have a solid reputation, maybe then it's about focusing on relationships, and not saying you're not focused on the other, but really deciding which foot do I lead with.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Where can people find you?
Well, I know you have my website up here. So Inflection Point Comms, the COMMS.com is my website. But I'm super active on LinkedIn and Instagram at Authentic Brand Strategist. So I'd love to connect with you there.
Awesome. Okay. And I can't believe we're at the end already. So the last question that I ask everybody is, what lights your fire?
Well, I think it's that moment. So. Yeah. So interesting. I love that you said it could be anything, because it does cross outside my business too. Like I'll do I have time for a short story on this?
Absolutely. No, we got time.
Okay. You're like, okay. So I have a 6-year-old daughter, and she, I was a Daisy, and so I shared it with her, and she's like, yeah, Mom, I want to be a Daisy, but I want you to be my troop leader. And I was like, oh, okay. But so I'm a troop co-leader now. It's interesting. I did the whole training. I'm finishing my first year with her in Girl Scouts, and I did the whole training for Girl Scouts and to be the troop leader. And I'm going to meet the other 2 leaders that I'm with, and it just comes to me. I'm like, there's something missing from this. And I write down on a piece of paper, she. And what it stands for is seen, heard, expressed. And I said, in every single meeting we have, if you guys are okay with this, obviously I wasn't the only leader. I said, but I feel passionately that this is what we need to do, that when the girls walk through the door, hi, so-and-so, so good for you to be here. Yay, come right in, They get a chance to speak, share their thoughts on something, answer questions. And I personally, my mom was an art teacher, so I do like all the art lessons. So there's artistic expression. I had to make their self-portraits out of leaves and sticks and at the park. Oh, yeah. But yeah, so you're like, what the hell's the through line here? What lights up my fire is, and my founder story is related to this, that 10-year-old in church, but it's about bringing voice to what is not being expressed, but absolutely has to be. And if that aches in somebody, that's usually how they find themselves to me, right? An aching desire to have that impact, but that's also connected to the voice and the message only you can share. And that moment that it clicks, like, oh my God, like I am my own fire. I am my own camp that someone can come, like I'm a destination that people want to sit by my fire and listen to it. That lights me up. That moment when it just clicks.
Wow. And I just got goosebumps again.
We're going to goosebump it up.
I know, we're going to be the goosebump brigade. It's so important because, I hear people, talk about what lights their fire and stuff. And it's usually, their kids or their, something in their business. But when when you speak and it's about being seen and about, there's just like so much, I heart you. Don't go anywhere. I'm going to say goodbye to my audience and come back to you. But wow, this was an amazing episode. And if you were here for a reason and you have gained something from here, excuse me, like, share, subscribe. When you subscribe, you get, a notification every week when there's a new episode. Katherine's amazing. You can go to her website and find her on LinkedIn, find her on Instagram. Look for us to do something together soon because I have a funny feeling that's going to happen. I want to thank my sponsor, Anovia Behavioral Health. I know we did a blurb, at the beginning, but I just want to personally thank them because I can't believe I have a sponsor and they're such an awesome organization. And I feel very honored that they chose to sponsor me. So thank you all for listening. I hope you gleaned something from this. And I know it's Mercury retrograde, but you know what? Have a great week and go out and find what lights your fire. It's you.